Assalaamu Alaikum and welcome to episode 13 of the Muslim Gamers podcast. I am your host Faraj and I'm joined by my co-host Nael and Laughing Man. We've got a packed episode today with plenty to discuss, from the latest gaming news to some spirited discussions about what's happening in the industry. Whether you're listening on your commute while gaming or relaxing, we appreciate you being here. Let's jump right into it. With that being said, Assalamu Alaikum, Nael, Laughing Man, how you guys doing?
Doing all right. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Pretty good, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, let's jump right into it. I know we've been out for like quite a while. I want to say like close to a month since we last recorded. And spoiler alert, this might probably be the last episode we record before Ramadan starts. We don't know, but we'll still say our goodbyes before Ramadan starts at the end of the episode anyway. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the games that we have been playing.
Hold on. It's not a permanent goodbye.
Yeah,
The way
sorry.
The Ramadan hiatus.
the way he said it, it's not. It's just a little hiatus, a
Season
vacation.
break, guys. Season break.
Thank you so much for catching me on that, Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. Yeah, we're just taking a break. I think Ramadan is like the last. Sorry, gaming is like the last thing we should be talking about during Ramadan. So, yeah, that's why I meant we're gonna take a break for Ramadan. Come back inshallah afterwards. Fun fact: we started the first episode of the podcast right after Ramadan last year in 2024. So, we're gonna keep it going. There were some people in the
About to hit
Discord that didn't
1 year
believe.
mark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, coming April 1st week or so.
Something.
Yeah, there were some people in the Discord that didn't believe we could keep it going for more than 6 months, so we definitely showed them. Amen. I'm looking at you. You're coming on one of these episodes one of these days. All right. So with that being said, you know what, Laughing Man, since you caught me with the possible misunderstanding that I could have made there, why don't you go first with some of the games you've been playing?
Okay, so it's been a while since it has been a while, and
Yeah, you've
could
been
say
gone
I've
longer
been,
because you weren't in the last episode.
oh yeah, yep,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you could say I've been a bit busy. I've marathoned all the Doom games from classic 90s like OG Doom to Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal I started it, but I haven't like finished that one yet. But yeah, I played Doom 1, Doom 2 Hell on Earth, Doom 64, Doom 3, all of Doom 3 DLCs, and Doom 2016. Now before we started recording, Faraj actually asked me. He was like, is it because I'm hyped for Doom Dark Ages?
Mm-hmm.
I am, but I'm not getting it on release.
Okay.
So why did I pick up Doom all of a sudden? So this is how it happened. Generally, my rule is I play one story-heavy game at a time, and that will never change. But sometimes that playing only one thing at a time, it can be a little. It can lead to a little bit of burnout, depending on what the game is.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And basically, when I'm not at home and I'm on my laptop, Doom 1 is like a couple megabytes. So I downloaded it and I started it up, and I was like, oh, this is, for an old, very old like game, it's aged kind of well.
Mm-hmm.
And before I knew it, I was like halfway through, and I was like, wow, I'm getting into the hang of this. And when I came back home, I played it on my desktop, and I quickly found Doom is one of those perfect podcast games. So if you're listening to a podcast like the Muslim Gamer podcast, or catching up on YouTube videos, and you have, dual triple monitors, it's one of those perfect games to, play, because there is a story, obviously, but it's super minimal, right? Your main job is you're blasting away demons in hell, and just going to the next level. And so I played Doom 1 and quickly got through it in like a day. And I was like, okay, well, let's do Doom 2. And I did the optional levels on Doom 2 as well. And then I was like, okay, well, while we're at it, because on Steam they have like the Doom Classic Bundle, which includes everything. Doom 1, 2, Doom 3 BFG, Doom 64. And I looked it up, and Doom 64 is canon. I played through that. I would recommend everyone play it once, but don't play it again. Because it's 50% kind of puzzle. A lot of it is less fighting and more like, damn it, where's the blue skull key? Where's the red skull key? Where do I find it? What do you mean I have to hug every wall to find a secret door?
That's 64?
Doom 64, yeah. And I don't know how people on the N64 played that with the awful controller,
Oh
because
god.
Game
the
guides.
no,
No, just the
not
controller,
the
the controls
guides,
itself.
bro.
Yeah.
The mechanics and like the reaction time. But yeah, and before I knew it, I went through Doom 3 and then finished Doom 2016. So yeah, that's, and I quickly realized, I was like, I can still stick to my one story game at a time, but FPS games that have very minimal story, I can use them as like a palate cleanser or like a podcasting thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's how I marathoned all the Doom games. And I will say, anyone who's into FPS, they should play all the classic Doom games, at least 1 and 2. You don't have to play 64 or Doom 3. Play 1 and 2 because it will help you appreciate how the FPS genre has evolved and why Doom 1's kind of a masterpiece. Like, Doom 1, the source code is actually open, so anyone can take it and mess around with it, make their own levels and stuff. So yeah, that's Doom. And yesterday I finished the Ace Attorney Investigations collection. I first replayed the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy, and then I finished the Ace Attorney Investigations collection. I have a slight rant about that, and I think this is awful practice. And my slight rant is, so Ace Attorney Investigations, these two games were released originally on the DS in 2009 and 2011. And for the collection, they remastered the graphics, they redid the sprites, really nice artwork. It looks beautiful, 2D HD like artwork.
Mhm.
And they took 5 soundtracks from each game and they redid the music. They did like an arranged orchestral guitar remix. And you can switch. You don't have to play with it on. You could switch in the options if you want. And Ace Attorney series is known for its music. Like, I have friends who haven't played it, but they know the music and how great it is. Now, I didn't pre-order the game. I bought it after it released later on, around like winter. It was like on the Steam sale, like a slight sale, but I decided to buy it. And I start the first game. I play it with the rearranged soundtracks, absolutely amazing. I get to the second game, and I'm like, why is the objection theme not have the arranged soundtracks? I checked my options, okay, it's on. Why is the pursuit theme not have the arranged soundtracks? What's going on? And then I saw that for the second game, you only get the arranged soundtracks if you pre-ordered. If you didn't pre-order, you don't get access to those arranged soundtracks. Now, they said in the trailer, may be available, not will be, may be available later. And I was like, Capcom, I love Ace Attorney. It's one of my favorite series. I will literally pay $5, $10 even if you make it available as like an add-on DLC. I don't mind, because I love the Ace Attorney series. I'm glad they finally localized it, brought it to Steam. And what's funny is Capcom has another, made by the same team. They have another game called Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which is also a DS game, got remastered, and they also rearranged the soundtracks. And if you want the arranged the remix soundtracks, you can buy it as a $2 DLC add-on. So why did they do it for this? Now, I did find a workaround, but I won't get into what that workaround is for alleged reasons here, and we'll leave it at that. And the other game I played, if you're into horror, I'm very picky with horror. I don't like cheap horror like jump scare. I love psychological horror that makes you think and reflect on life, reflect on humanity, reflect on what's your place in life, what are you doing, and maybe even religiously reflect, like if you're, a thinker. Mouthwashing. Some of you may have heard of the game, maybe you've seen memes about it. It's $10, it's on sale right now. It's an indie game made by Swedish developers. And the game is extremely short. It will only take you 3 to 4 hours to finish. It's very straightforward. There isn't like a lot of puzzles. And the graphics kind of look like Lethal Company, if you've played Lethal Company.
Yeah.
And now, word of caution. The subject matter is very mature, very dark. Like, it does deal with sexual assault. There is like a topic of sexual assault that comes up. And I'm saying this, some people might say, "Oh, Laughing Man, that's kind of a spoiler." Some people, they don't like this subject matter, in their media. They want to avoid it, so I don't think it's a spoiler to warn people about it. And it's not done for shock value. It is not cheap shock value. It is done in a very somber, reflective manner, very respectfully.
It's exploring the topic.
It's exploring the
Right.
topic, exactly.
And
And
it's better
one
to
of the
have that warning in case
Up
if there's
front.
people that are sensitive
exactly,
to
which
it.
is why I don't mind spoiling that part.
Yeah.
And one of the themes is what happens when can a person be good if in the face of evil they're not doing much to stop that evil. That is one of the themes it kind of discusses. And I'll leave it at that. Because everyone should go into this blind.
Mm.
That's all I'll say. But yeah, it is very graphic, but maybe some parts might be a little shock value, but the themes it goes into are absolutely cerebral.
Okay.
So yeah, and as for now, my current story game, Avowed, baby. I've waited years.
Okay.
Everyone here knows I'm a massive CRPG fan. I have 200 hours on Pillars of Eternity 1, another 200 on Pillars of Eternity 2. I have waited years for this. I haven't started Avowed yet, but yeah. So I kind of went a little bit over, but yeah, that's what I've been up to. I've been a bit busy.
So you haven't started Avowed yet, or you barely just started?
I have not started yet because
So
I
you haven't
just
started
finished Ace
Okay.
Attorney Investigations yesterday,
Okay.
and then
Right.
I
Story
got
game. Okay. Get.
story game. So I was like, all right, let me start it tomorrow. Let it simmer a little bit, But yeah,
Cool.
All right.
Nice. Yeah. The only thing I knew about mouthwashing before you got into it
Yeah.
was from the Reddit where there were random posts about like, oh, what game had this, gave you this reaction? And it's just like someone just looking so shocked. And it's just like, what game had you at the end like this?
Oh
And a
yeah.
lot of people were saying mouthwashing for sure.
Yeah.
And that's all they were willing to get into for that game.
Yep.
And that told me, yeah, it's definitely probably a game worth checking out. And thank you for the graphic warnings in there as
Yeah.
well.
Because I understand the subject material isn't for everyone, which is why I spoiled that slight part. But if you can stomach that topic, like you don't mind like exploring it, I highly recommend this. It takes 3 to 4 hours. It's super short.
Mm.
You can
Yeah,
finish
the
it in
fact-
one sitting.
Yeah, the fact that it's short has me very appealed.
Yeah.
It's very appealing for me. Appealed? I don't even know if that's a word. The
Only
last
if you're a
game,
banana.
there you go. Yeah, the last game I remember beating or at least completing in one sitting was Gone Home, but that's more of a walking simulator. This one I don't know if it's.
But it's all
gonna-
I haven't played that one, but I know it's also very cerebral. Like it makes you think and reflect.
It does make you think.
It touches you emotionally and stuff.
Yeah,
So
and it's not really a horror. You're just alone in a house.
yeah,
And there's like sometimes random things fall and making you think that there's going to be something that jumps out of the corner. But yeah, definitely find those types of games really appealing. Before I get into my games, Nael, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been playing?
Well, I haven't had time to sink my teeth into anything. And, with Ramadan coming up, I didn't want to commit to anything big. So I decided that it's the perfect time for the annual Minecraft replay. Dive back into Minecraft, new world, all kinds of things to explore. I haven't touched it in a while, so
are you playing by yourself or with
by
friends?
myself? Yeah.
Oh,
by
okay.
myself. Yeah, just seeing if I can actually like beat the game, which a lot of times it'll start off that way, and I just give up halfway through because I'm having too much fun building other things.
You're going through like the story mode type of thing for that
survival
dragon. I think
beating the dragon.
He's like the okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what does the replay or the annual replay consist of? How does that look like? Because for me,
It never
start
looks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. For me, it always starts out with, gathering enough to build a house with the bed and some, the crafting table and whatnot and all the other stuff in there. Digging a hole as deep as possible. Spending too much time trying to optimize the stairs that go all the way down. Making sure there's enough lights there. And by the time I get to the bottom, I
Is it-
realized I didn't build it properly, and then dealing with
Let,
all
let's hope
that's
let's
as
hope
far as I got.
Minecraft never adds a power washing mod. Otherwise, I think we'll lose Faraj.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if there was one
I'm sure there's so many
with
mods
the
for that
amount of
game.
mods that are out there
Yeah,
for Minecraft.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just playing. Usually, I would play like mods and stuff and try other things, but I haven't just played vanilla Minecraft in a while. And there's been like all kinds of new updates, new monsters. So figured, it's a good time to check it out. So a lot of times when I'm playing a new vanilla game, I'll start, but about halfway through, I'll just start making redstone experiments and you know playing all kinds of other things instead. So we'll see how long I last.
What are you playing Minecraft on?
My Switch.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The Switch seems like
I haven't played it like a full game on my Switch before, because usually I play on my PC.
right.
And then
How's
on
the
my Switch,
performance on the Switch?
it's fine. It's fine. It's Minecraft. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking for anything heavy, and it's not like I don't have any shaders or anything going on my Switch, so
Hmm.
it's not really a problem. Most of the time on my Switch, I'm playing with my niece. We're building our little town, but this time I decided to just try a vanilla run on my own.
Yeah, that's the version I want to get to, especially now that I have two Switches
Mm-hmm.
with me on the Switch Lite and my son having, my OG Switch. The unfortunate thing is I need to get two copies to be able to play with him because he's really
Yeah,
interested in Minecraft. He loves watching me play, but I want him to get into it too. I want to be able to
yeah.
enjoy that
Each
with him.
unfortunately, each person has to have their own copy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
$30, which isn't that bad,
It's not
but
that bad.
yeah, but it never goes on
It
sale.
was a good incentive. I tried to bribe my niece to finish her summer reading or
Oh,
something.
nice.
So I was like, okay, finish that,
Hmm.
or I'll get you Minecraft. Kind of worked, kind of didn't.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, as a parent, I have other ways to make my kids do things, but that's a topic for another. I'm just kidding. I don't do anything that
Parenting
crazy,
episode
but
part 2.
yeah. Yeah. Moving on, let's talk about some of the games that I've been getting into. I've actually been quite busy in the gaming sphere. Um, yeah, gaming is a good escape for me, and I had a lot of things happen. Not, I shouldn't say I had a lot of things. I had enough reason to escape into the realities provided by different video games. Palworld went on a sale on Steam, so now I have my own copy of Palworld. Before, it was just part of the family bundle. So whoever else was trying to play in the Steam family, I couldn't play with them. So now I can, but I've actually, funnily enough, been playing solo and just been getting into that, and it's quite fun. I love myself some survival crafting games, which is why Minecraft was such a
Hmm.
great way for me to get started with that. I loved Valheim, Pal World. Right now, I got into a little bit of V Rising, but not as much. Um, Mainly just because when I started playing it, it was kind of late at night, so I had to stop, and then never had a chance to get back into it. But we're talking about Power World, fun game. I thought they got rid of the mechanic where you throw the ball to capture the pals, but it's still there.
They tweaked it. So you, instead of like throwing the ball or something, there's like a beam, or like you hold it, like you lift it. Like there's like a slight tweak to the mechanic.
It still looks like you're throwing a Pokeball.
Hmm.
Because I read something where it's like it was a gun that shoots something that captures them or whatever. So I don't know. I didn't bother looking into that. I was just like, okay, I can still at least capture pals. The game hasn't gotten shut down. They're not getting hounded on by Nintendo's lawyers, but things
Maybe
are going well.
Palworld needs to hire Phoenix Wright as its defense attorney.
Maybe. Maybe. That was also a game I was getting into. I beat the first one, but we talked about that in the last episode. I barely just started the second one, whatever it was called in the trilogy, the Phoenix Wright trilogy.
Justice for all. Justice for all.
Justice for All. Yeah, I barely just started that, but didn't get a chance to sink my teeth into that just yet because I went into another rabbit hole after Power World. because I was looking for games that were like Diablo for me to play on the Steam Deck, because
ARPGs.
yeah, basically ARPGs, but more importantly, top-down isometric ARPGs. Diablo 4 plays really well on the Steam Deck, but with all the updates, the size of it is getting larger, and I'm running out of space. I want to keep some free space for other things on the Steam Deck, so I'm running out of that. Plus, you also need to be always online to be able to play it. So I like one of the things I like about the Steam Deck is being able to just put it to sleep, come back to it, and just jump right back into my game. So unfortunately Diablo 4 was not great for that. So I had Diablo 2. I've owned Diablo 2, the resurrected collection, whatever that's called, for a while. So I thought I'd give that a try on the Steam Deck, and it actually plays really well because it's got full controller support. So that was great. And that made me want to get back into Torchlight, because I own Torchlight on Steam as well. I got back into it on my Xbox One recently because it's the Xbox 360 version, and that it's the system is showing its age, where after, when there's a lot of activity going on screen, it starts to slow down because it's emulating the Xbox 360 version. There's a lot of things going on there, so I figured it might play better on PC. It plays great on PC, but on the Steam Deck, unfortunately, it's emulating mouse and keyboard controls, so it's not native controller support. And apparently that's just the way they built the game, as a completely separate edition for consoles that just works with console controls. And same thing for Torchlight 2 as well. So that got me to try a couple of other ones. Warhammer Chaosbane, that's a Warhammer Diablo like. That one was pretty fun. Got repetitive. I mean, most of these games can seem repetitive, but Warhammer Chaosbane got repetitive a lot faster, and even more so. But it's still not bad, considering I got the game for like $4 with all the DLC, so it was okay. Victor Vran, it was another one that I've heard a lot of people talk about. And when I started to play the game, the voice actor for the main character, Victor Vran, sounded very familiar, so I had to look it up. It's Doug Cockle, the same guy that voiced Geralt of Rivia. So I was
Little
like,
Geralt, yeah.
yeah. So I was like, awesome, excellent. So even more of a reason for me to play this game. And I also just slightly dove into Darksiders Genesis a little bit, just because I wanted to try it out. And yeah, it actually, considering how great that game looks, it plays really well on the Steam Deck. I just wish there were more controller friendly or native controller supported games. I wish Torchlight had some sort of a mod or something, but with the way they built the game, it was just not easy to do. But it's still playable. You can still play it with the Steam Deck, with the not just a touchpad. There's like an entire Steam input profile that who are the guys behind Torchlight? I can't remember the name. It's not Runic. Is it Runic? I think it is Runic. Runic Games. But whoever the developers were, they made a profile for it to work really well on there. Cool. So it works well, but it's not as intuitive as
it is Runic Games. It is Runic Games.
Okay, I did get that part right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as intuitive. I'm kind of going a little long there, so let me move on to my next game. Which
so you basically went down the ARPG rabbit hole, like I went down the Doom rabbit hole.
Basically. But you went through a sequence after beating all of them. Me, I just went through. Hey, played through a little bit. Hey, I got a craving for a different kind of flavor. Let me try something else.
But say what you want. At least you didn't have to pay someone to grind Diablo or Path of Exile for you and get to like the highest level, right? Like at least you didn't have to pay someone. You played it on your own and you're learning it and getting better at it.
I'm gonna use my Fifth Amendment right now. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's yeah, I don't know who would do that. Yeah, maybe there's someone out there who's yeah. That was just all kidding aside, that was just such a pathetic story to come out of. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, why lie about, hey, I wasn't the one that. There's nothing illegal about having someone else farm the game for you.
Just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Someone pointed out he could have just like played normally. He would have sucked at it, but he would have been like, "Oh yeah, hey guys, this is my build. I'm having fun," and it would have been like kind of charming.
Yeah.
But he was like,
He had to go
this
like,
is
oh yeah,
my
I'm one of the top 10 or
this is my
50
character.
Path of Exile characters or
This is
players.
the hardest difficulty. I'm very good at this. I'm not using my mana flask. And eventually he did admit, and he was like, "Oh, but all the top Chinese level players do this. You know, you got to do this if you want to get." But yeah, I digress.
Yeah, that's yeah, just because everyone does it, Elon doesn't make it right. Um, moving on. I did get a chance to sink my teeth into 112 Operator.
Mhm.
It's basically a game where you play an emergency dispatch operator, and you get to pick different cities. I only got a chance to try out London. I don't really know what the city itself does, but there's like it throws different scenarios at you. You get to control police, ambulance, and fire responders, or firefighters and emergency responders. It was it's a little unsettling sometimes when you play that game because sometimes you get calls that you have to answer, and I got two calls back to back where someone was calling because they were about to unalive themselves.
Oof.
And yeah, and having to like pick and you have to pick from some options to try to talk them through it. There was one where I succeeded and the other one where I failed. It's like I didn't know what the dialogue options were supposed to do and how that was supposed to sound, but
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, there was that. But I'm playing it on an easier difficulty, so there isn't too much of a penalty on me for that. But yeah, it makes you empathize with these people that work full time answering,
Dispatch.
911 phone calls and just having a dispatch and trying to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
make the call right there to do the right thing.
So there's a bit of a story. It sounds like because you mentioned like dialogue options.
Yeah, there was one. Let me try to remember. So there was one where I get a call, and I think it's all procedurally randomly generated. Different things happen at different times. There was one call I get where this guy is like, "Oh, hey, I'm standing on this. I'm about to fly," something like that, and it's like, me having to like talk him down, like, "Hey, what happened?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just having a blast. I just got out of this bar, had so much to drink." And trying to talk him down. I was like, "Hey, you're drunk. You're not thinking straight." I can't exactly recall what how that conversation went, but it
Mm-hmm.
basically with him was like, "Well, I'm gonna show you that I can fly," and just jumps off. That was very unsettling. Um, so yeah, it's all kind of procedurally generated. Maybe there might be some scripted stuff in there for the way the dialogues play out, but yeah, definitely an interesting game to check out. I don't know, I can't recall how it ended up on my library. I think it was a freebie at one point or another, because I wouldn't see myself picking up this game on my own, and I just thought it would be an interesting game for me to try out.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I've been going on for a while, but this was a game I just very recently got into because there was a sale on the Nintendo eShop for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which was arguably one of the best Ubisoft games to have come out these past couple of years, which is unfortunate because the team behind that game has been disbanded. And I think some of them probably have been laid off as well. But a very fun Metroidvania, really great combat. I don't really have any complaints about the game so far. I haven't gotten that far into it, but I can't put it down. It's a lot of fun, and uh, definitely would highly recommend it. At least where I am so far, especially if you can get it on a sale.
That's a good variety. You've been busy like me as well.
Yeah, but unlike you, I don't have a one story game at a time rule. So I've just been jumping all over the place.
Oh yeah,
Which
that I couldn't do.
yeah, yeah. No, I wish I was a little bit more disciplined like you, to be able to stick with one story based game, or at least a game that has a bit of a story. And when you were talking about podcast games, for me, Doom isn't one of those. For me, I just get really uh immersed into the action of it, so I can't listen to a podcast while playing a game like that.
Oh,
But
that's
something
that's that's fair.
like an open world collectathon, like maybe Assassin's Creed, or even some of these ARPGs like Diablo. Like there was one night where I was playing Diablo 4. It might have been during Ramadan last year. I was playing Diablo 4 while listening to Noman Ali Khan lectures. Uh, yeah,
ARPGs are a good podcast thing.
Yeah.
For Doom, a couple of times when like a certain boss fights, it got intense.
Hmm.
But for like normal fights, it's like okay, yep, okay, rip and tear this, and but yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like depending on how chilly and calming it is. For some story RPGs, if I'm doing like a collectathon, side quest, whatever, then
Hmm.
yeah, I will put on because there isn't any story thing going on. So I will put on YouTube whatever on the second monitor.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
oh, and I imagine power washing sim is the
Oh,
perfect.
absolutely. Yeah. As long as you're not playing in VR, yeah, it's great. But believe it or not, I actually got tired of the game.
Impossible.
Yeah, but it was because of a specific level that I got to. It's like a treehouse. The more like it's not as impressive to clean up something that looks that natural already. It just looks a little bit cleaner. But when you got something that's industrial looking or something man made and you're trying to clean that, it looks a lot better. For me, but that's just me personally. I've always been more of a sci-fi guy than a fantasy guy, which I was actually about to get into, is that there actually are not a lot of sci-fi ARPGs out
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
I have I have noticed that.
there is one. I mean, there's the Ascent, but I gave up on that
The
game just
Ascent
because
is
of
more
how
of a twin
glitchy.
stick. That's more of a twin stick shooter than an ARPG.
You can play it kind of as an ARPG because there are RPG elements to it with your character leveling up and
Right,
different
right.
gear that you get to pick. You're not constantly running back to town to sell all the gear that you collect.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
do
exactly.
a little bit, and there's so many different quests, like missions to that you get assigned. Side quests and main quests. But I stopped that game just because I had a couple of game breaking bugs where not well,
Oh,
forget the crashes. It's like parts of the mission that I was supposed to complete weren't even loading up, so I had to.
Mm.
Yeah, as I was just
oh
like,
wow.
I'm done with it. I went back on that one,
And it's
and
actually kind of building off your point. It's not just ARPGs. I've noticed there aren't a lot of sci-fi RPGs, period.
right, yeah,
There's
the
Mass
few.
Effect, the classic,
The
Mhm.
classic.
Cyberpunk, Deus
Fa-
Ex, Human Revolution has some RPG elements,
yeah,
but
but
like
it's not very RPG friendly.
you're not making a
It's
custom character from scratch, role
yeah.
playing and
Right.
stuff. Yeah,
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
aren't a lot.
Starfield,
Oh yes,
if you want to count that.
yeah, Star.
Yeah,
I would
Fallout.
count that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There are some CRPGs, more sci-fi CRPGs, but like
Hmm.
Hmm.
first person AAA. Outer Worlds technically count. But
Yes.
there's so
Yeah.
many more fantasy ones. For each one we named, there's
Hmm.
like 10
Hmm.
fantasy ones. So
Hmm.
Yeah. We've probably named like the top 75% just now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is one that's on a playtest called Carbon, and that looks just like Diablo, but with a sci-fi skin.
Mm.
And but it's still it hasn't even been released. They had a playtest a while ago, so I've been trying to follow that game. But you know what? We've been talking about the games we've been playing for so long, so let's go ahead and spill some tea on the gaming industry and
Before we
talk
move
about.
on, I looked
Oh,
up the Palworld thing. So the mechanic they changed, it's you don't throw your Pokeball or your ball to summon. When you summon, it just summons next to you. That was the change.
interesting. I don't
So
know if that gets
you
them
don't throw a ball to right.
to
They just
summon
got rid
them,
of that
right? They
mechanic.
just, yeah, they just, you're right,
Yeah,
I did notice that they just kind of summon right
they
next
just
to you.
appear next to you. So
Yeah.
that was the
and
change.
and one thing I noticed too is that unless if they're actually working at your base for the pals that you have in your party,
Mm.
you can only have one summoned at a time, which I guess makes sense, kind of like in Pokemon. But I kind of want to just throw my entire party at a boss just to have them all fight at the same time, because some of the bosses were a little challenging. Well, I shouldn't say challenging, but they were, I was cutting it close. There was one boss where my pal killed the boss
Mhm.
right after I died, so it counted as a victory. But all
Okay.
nice.
my gear got
Nice.
dropped there, so I just had to
Ah,
Me
teleport back there, get my gear,
you
grab
gotta
the loot.
rush
me
before
when
it
I
disappears.
die, me when I die in an Elden Ring boss fight, but my mimic tier, who's like a copy, like the summon who's a copy, lands the killing blow. It's happened several times.
Uh,
All right, so we've been talking about the games we're playing for about 35-ish minutes at this point. So let's get into some video game news and some current events that are going on,
Controversies.
and controversies. Speaking of controversies, why don't we start out with something that's going pretty big in the PC world, Laughing Man?
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, Nvidia and its paper launch. Anyone who's into PC gaming hardware, I'm sure you've seen all the clickbait thumbnails of J2 Cents, Linus, Steve from Hardware Nexus. And it's not clickbait, it's true. So the Nvidia 5000 series, they released January at the end of January, like I think it was like January 30th or the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And people are now calling it a paper launch. And for those who don't know what that term means, a paper launch basically means when you release a new product, but it's either not really available or like available in extremely limited quantities. And it's like you launched it on paper, but the product people
Okay.
get access to it. Um, Nvidia employees are having trouble getting the people who work for the company can't get their hands on it. And the timing of it, so around January 30, 31st is around Chinese New Year. And for those who don't know, a lot of these cards, they're manufactured, like the hardware aspect, it's manufactured in like factories and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
During Chinese New Year, these factories are closed because the workers, they leave and they go home. Many of them come from rural areas and stuff. So they leave, so those factories aren't open. And it's not just me, multiple people have a conspiracy theory that Nvidia deliberately did this to create a sense of artificial scarcity. Because Nvidia, I think I read that across all the micro centers in the entire United States, which is like a couple, there was only a total of 200 5090s across every single micro center in the entire United
That's
States.
insane.
Um,
Wow.
some micro centers only had 2 to 3 5090s launch day. 2 to 3. Um,
Wow.
in Japan, there was a long line of people waiting for a chance to enter a lottery for the chance to buy a 5090.
This is bringing back COVID time
Scalper, like
supply
those
chain.
COVID crypto. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, there's that. There's that aspect, so the paper launch aspect, and the cards them. So the 5090, obviously, it's an amazing card, but the 5080 is barely a step up. The 5080 is barely a step up from the 4080.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are calling the 5080 like a rebranded 4070, like a 4070 that's slightly more powerful, basically.
Wow. The
Um,
5080.
the 5080,
Okay.
um, and but it costs a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Now,
yeah.
what really sucks is, let's say, because some people they wait for the new generation of GPUs because their idea is, okay, new gen drops, now I buy the previous gen because
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is the 4000 series has been stopped. They no longer manufacture it.
Right.
So if you want a 4070, 4080, or even a 4090, good luck. Your only hope is the secondary used market, which I have bought a used GPU before. My 1070, I actually bought it used. I met some cool dudes on a Discord server, and he sold me. This guy got a 1080 Ti, so he sold me his 1070, which he only used for a year. And I used that for a while. I had no issues with it or anything. But it's still like, electronics. You prefer to buy something that's new,
Right.
especially warranty purposes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those who got a 4080 or a 4090, they are now chilling. Like they really lucked out, um, because like let's say you're like, okay, fine, I want the 5000 series. Good luck getting a hold of one. And if you get a hold of one, good luck with the prices. The prices are insane. Um,
Yeah. But this
and
you're
yeah,
talking about scalper prices.
not just
No,
scalper
no, no, no.
prices.
The
The
Nvidia launch price is pretty high.
so uh,
You're talking about
Nvidia has
MSRP
their
or
MSRP
MSRP, but the
MSRP
the
is
third party the third party
okay.
Gigabyte MSI, they don't
mm,
sell those at MSRP.
okay.
Because they add their own custom enhancements, because they take the Nvidia card and they modify it, right? They
Right.
add custom stuff. So the 5080, 5070, which is supposed to cost like $550 MSRP before taxes, It's now going up to like 700, 800. That's ridiculous. And then on top of that, there are several 5090s that had some sort of power failure, where people reported their screens went black, and it wouldn't, like, the card is spinning, the fans are running, but it's not giving any signal to the monitor due to like some issue.
Overheat.
So it all in all, it's just like a complete dumpster fire. I think this is one of the worst GPU launches I've ever seen. There's no availability, the pricing is awful, some GPU failures, and you want to know what's even worse? AMD, this is their chance. This is their chance to go in, kick Nvidia's butt, but they're not, because AMD is always one step behind. Now, someone might say, okay, I mean, AMD's cheaper, they are a bit more readily available. Why not just get the AMD card? And that is a good point. I know a couple of people. There's one YouTube channel I watch, which some people probably know, Some Ordinary Gamers, Mudahar. He said that he's gonna go Team Red. He's gonna go with AMD GPUs. The problem with AMD GPUs is, yeah, they are more readily available, but like, let's say DLSS. AMD's equivalent is, they call it FSR.
Right.
FSR, while it's more open source, and we all love open source, FSR is still behind DLSS.
Oh yeah, really behind.
Like, sure, we're on FSR 3.1. I think it's 3.2 now, or 3.1 or 3.2. 3.1. It is still behind DLSS, like, by a whole level.
Yeah. It's actually, I think FSR 3.1 is not even as good as DLSS 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And with a lot of games nowadays, you want that.
To put it into context, just so people get an understanding of how behind FSR is, it basically helps all these like artificial frame generation. It's not even frame generation; it's upscaling. Basically.
This is upscaling.
It just artificially helps to like trick you into seeing a 60 frame rate or whatever higher frame rate. That's
no. In this case, it's not frame rate. In this case, it's not frame rate. It's resolution.
It's like bumping up your 1080 to 4K.
Basically,
like it runs the game at a lower resolution, but it uses tricks to make your eyes look like it's at a higher resolution, basically.
And the issue, thank you for explaining it that way. The issue with FSR with that is, while it does that, it also makes it look like there's Vaseline smudged on the screen, especially when there's any kind of movement happening.
Or shadows, especially with shadows and stuff. Yeah.
Think motion blur on your brand new TV.
Well, hold on.
It's worse than motion blur, actually.
Who here uses motion blur? Because you deserve to be shamed. Anyone who likes motion blur, you deserve to be shamed.
The only time I've ever used motion blur was with the older Need for Speed titles, just because of the
those are
action.
That's different. Yeah. I get you on that.
It's built for the motion blur.
Yeah. But yeah,
while we're on that as well, a slight aside with the tangent, people that don't turn off their smoothing on the TVs for like where it just artificially makes it look like it's playing everything at like 60 frames per second. I cannot stand that. I don't know how people watch that.
People who buy a new TV or monitor but don't calibrate it. What are you doing? You spent all this money. Literally look up a YouTube guide. It takes a couple minutes. Calibrate your display, fix the colors. You spent all that money, you're only getting what, 50% of it. Yeah,
I think there was someone online who got a PS5 Pro and said, "Hey, the PS5 Pro does play Bloodborne at 60 frames per second." I was like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. And he shows this thing, and you could see how much lag there was because the TV had that artificial smoothing thing to make it look like it's playing at 60 frames per second.
It's those same people. It's those same people who say the human eye can't see above 30 frames.
I mean, they're also the ones who buy the gold HDMI cables.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also true. Yeah. And they're also the ones who see the label and say, "Guys, my PS5, it can run at 8K. It can run up to 8K resolution."
There's one game that runs at 8K. Yeah, but even that,
I mean, who
Sorry, that was an aside.
And also a quick.
How many 8K TVs are even out there?
a
Not that
couple,
many.
like
They're
one or
like
two, I think.
ridiculous expensive too.
Yeah. Also a quick aside, since Faraj brought up televisions. Why do people mount their television so high? There's a whole subreddit for this. TV too high.
TV
Like,
too high,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
mount it. Like, what is up with that? Like, mount it at an eye level. Why are you straining your necks to
It's-
look? Like, what is wrong with you people? Come on.
Well, half the times you can't even blame them because their mantle is so high because they
Right.
have a
Yeah,
fireplace.
it's stupid. It's awful. It's an awful practice that's become accepted. It's ridiculous. But yeah, going back to Nvidia. So yeah, there's that. And now I know Nvidia. They're like, oh, we've introduced multi-frame generation.
Faraj is looking at the subreddit.
Yeah,
You
I'm
can
looking-
actually tell by his face.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I can tell he's googling away.
I'm
It's
just
okay.
scrolling right now, and it's just like
The more people that join this movement, I think we can make a change.
so.
But
just
We
just
stopped
as
acid rain. We can stop people from mounting their TVs too high.
so
exactly.
So my mantle
Dude,
would
get a
also
table.
my mantle will also be pretty big, to where if we mount the TV above the mantle, you'd kind of have to look high. It wouldn't be too high, but it just would not be at eye level.
Yeah.
So I made the sacrifice at home of not using our fireplace and just put the TV right in front of it.
Based Faraj. He's already on the right path. But
I'm sorry,
yeah.
family, for not giving you a fireplace. But we're in California. When do we ever need it?
Yeah, when do you need a fireplace? But yeah, the multi-frame generation. So frame generation, I've used it. I think it's cool. Multi-frame generation, the problem is, and you'll see this in other like clickbait, but it's not really clickbait. Fake money, fake frames, fake launch. Like that's a common theme here. The problem with multi-frame generation is because there's always a drawback to these things. When you upscale stuff, some people are like, "Oh, DLSS, it gives you more frames." Yeah, but if you have a keen eye, you can see small details that seem a little fudged. But as DLSS improves, they're able to hide those things. Frame generation, I mean, as the name implies, it gives you more frames. So what's the issue? It introduces input latency because as you're, I could get into the whole technique of how to do it, but this isn't a technical podcast.
Because it creates tween frames.
Yes,
it
exactly.
generates tween frames. Like think back in your old school animations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now with multi-frame gen, they're doubling. They're like doubling because multi-frame gen you can do up to 2 times, 3 times, and the max is 4. But each time you do that, you're introducing more input
double
latency.
up the lag.
Yes,
You're
introducing more input latency, and some people have tested and they said the input latency, it's a little noticeable. And one way Nvidia tries to deal with that is they introduced a feature called Nvidia Reflex. You'll see in a lot of big modern AAA games, Cyberpunk, Indiana Jones. They say things like, "Oh, frame gen, whatever," and they put reflex. If you're using frame gen, you're using DLSS, you better turn on that reflex. Otherwise, you will notice the input latency. But yeah, it's
I think it's the technology is cool because like you're able to run a lot higher look and feel for your game.
Yes.
But because it's rendering smaller on device, but scaling up. So it's neat. You can pump out a lot more for your dollars, but
it's not a problem.
But it's not an end all be all for just straight hardware.
Right.
Oh no, exactly. And input latency is not a huge problem if you're playing like, let's say, a game that's more cinematic and stuff. But if you're playing like Doom, for example, like something you do not want, or if you're a competitive Marvel Rivals, because that's the new flavor of the month, Marvel, or flavor of the quarter, I guess, Marvel Rivals. You do not want that input latency. But yeah, that's Nvidia, and unfortunately, they're gonna run away to the bank because there are people selling their kidneys and chopping off their limbs to get that marked up $8,000 5090.
Yeah, I'm still running my 1070 right now. I don't even know how that thing is lasting, but I'm scared for that thing to give out at any time, because then I'd have to get something else that's out there.
I mean, all in all, Nvidia doesn't care because their stock is up.
Their stock is and that's why I'm like, come on, like AMD, like please just do something. And they're still gonna release their 9700 XT. That's their like powerful flagship card.
Hmm.
But from the leaks, from what I've seen, it's not the price point, everything. It's not really that impressive. There's Intel Arc, but the Intel Arc GPUs, they're not really high end. They're meant for like more mid level stuff, which is good. I'm glad they exist. I want more competition.
More affordable, yeah.
Yeah, but
I think there should be more competition in the middle space.
Yeah,
definitely. The
maybe
issue is that they don't have as much support for, like, their drivers aren't supported in for most games.
Exactly. Yeah,
Or
maybe
for a lot of them, I should
perhaps
say most.
the way DeepSeek, wiped off a couple billion off the AI bubble market. Maybe a company somewhere will come along and they'll finally release an open source GPU that kicks
Well,
Nvidia's butt. One can
those
dream and hope.
machines that build the chips are like $2-3 million, so
That's true.
it's not really easy to start up a chip business.
This is true. Listen, it's a pipe dream. Let me have my copium.
Yeah. Let's see how things play out there. One thing that I did find out, I think it was yesterday, regarding the 50 series cards, is that they actually will not support older games that are running 32-bit.
For physics, specifically for physics,
not specifically for physics.
It's specifically like it's not 32. Yeah, it's specifically for physics. Mm-hmm. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Okay.
It's certain old titles like Mirror's Edge and like really old Borderlands, because those games came out, if you remember, in the 2010s, where PhysX, that was like a big new feature. Yeah. And do you remember when people used to buy 2 GPUs and run them SLI and stuff?
Yep, I remember that.
The whole deal with that is one of them would be a dedicated PhysX card, basically.
Got it.
But now PhysX isn't really a thing. Games don't really have it or use it anymore. It was a fad. So I personally don't. That sucks. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. Okay. Like, just literally turn it off in the settings.
Since you mentioned that, I can literally think of like 4 games.
Yeah, I can only think of
PhysX,
2.
But
Mirror's
they're
Edge
also running on 32-bit.
Yeah, exactly.
On 64, so it's a small. Okay, that makes it a lot better.
Yeah, it's not that. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Okay. All right, so at least there's some good news on that end, even with how disastrous this 50 series.
Oh yeah, and I'll end this with if you have a GPU, if you have a 4000, 3000 series, you're fine. Just turn down a couple of settings, you're fine. If you have an older GPU,
you're probably
look at the used. Fine. You're still fine especially if you don't play a lot of AAA modern
just
stuff.
Scale down.
Yeah, scale down. But if you really, let's say something happens, you really need a new GPU, don't be afraid to look at the secondary market. Like, look at trusted sellers, and like, and if you my advice is, if you're gonna buy in person, go to the person's place if they're chill, and look at the card, have them test out benchmark stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're fine
actually
with that.
run in a
exactly.
Computer. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right, we are about close to 55 minutes in, but yeah, we got
it's all
really
Nvidia's
deep
fault.
dive. Yeah, exactly. I completely blame Nvidia for that. Maybe we could blame Microsoft a little bit too, because Nael, you have a news story here in our notes that I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit about.
Yeah, so
depending on how much you have to say.
Microsoft has been developing a AI beta test system to test out their games, basically taking hundreds and hundreds of hours of gaming, consolidating it into a AI system so that the AI can kind of predict human behavior of how they're going to, run through gaming simulations of certain games. So that's pretty much where they're at. That's been what's been announced. My opinion on it is that I don't think an AI can account for all human error.
Right.
The least common denominator is what you usually try to test for it when you're creating, when you're testing, right? When you're beta testing, you're looking for game-breaking elements. experience breaking elements, and I don't really think an AI is going to be very capable of it, because rather than looking at the extremes, it's going to be centering up, right? That's how these large models work. They just take the average and average and average and average. So one, it's going to take away jobs of testers. Two, I don't think it's going to add value to gamers necessarily, even if it's going to help Microsoft do things a little more cheaply.
My opinion on that is I work in quality assurance, and I don't like this news at all.
This AI fad, I was low-key kind of happy when the DeepSeek thing happened, because I was
Absolutely,
like, this AI, okay, AI is not going to go away. Like, it's going to stay, and there are very good, useful uses of it. AI, my philosophy has always been, AI should be an assistive tool, not a generative tool. It should help, not eliminate the human and do the work, especially in the arts and creativity. And
even in tech.
It's because I'm a comp sci major. AI is very good for bug fixing. Now, you could use AI, and like if you're a starting like comp sci student, you totally could use Chat GPT and be like, "Yo, write all my code."
You'll get through your homework, because
you won't learn anything.
The homework is what's part of the middle area of, like, that's what everyone does. Everyone knows. That's common knowledge.
If you're not struggling with it, because part of, like, especially with coding and any STEM related field, part of learning the material is struggling with it, not understanding, and then you struggle with it. You're like, oh, that's how that works. But once you've learned it, you're like, oh, okay. What is this pesky little bug I need to be fixed? Okay, AI, yo, here's my code. What's the bug? Oh, that's the bug. Oh, on that line. Okay, that's what, like, it should be used for that. But unfortunately, it's people are using it as a generative tool, and it's a fad because a bunch of middle management, executives, managers, suits, shareholders, they're like,
the middle is what's being cut out.
Oh, sorry, not the middle management. I meant to say upper management. Yeah. Upper management suits, they're just like, oh, AI, everyone's talking about it's the new fad. You know what was the fad a couple of years ago? Blockchain, NFTs. Like, so
you're triggering me with a lot of words right now.
Like, anytime
the metaverse,
anytime I hear some dumb ad, like, where it's like, powered by AI, I'm like, we've had powered by AI Siri. That's been in smartphones since 2009, 2008. It's powered by AI. What are you talking about? You're an idiot. I could go on. I could go on hours about this.
Yeah, no, the fact that they're just putting that AI label on everything, like the MSI Claw, the newer one is called the 8 AI Plus or something like that. The AI is basically just some form of what's it called? It just automatically modifies settings based on how demanding the game is or whatever. It's not even they call it AI. One of the worst takes, and it's unfortunate that it came from a friend of mine. Not take, but like just a blurb he said about AI is, oh yeah, they're gonna start using AI in games. I heard there's rumor that GTA 6 is gonna have the cops are gonna be powered by AI, and I'm like, Habibi, what do you think?
How did it work this whole time?
How did it work before?
How did it work before?
There are tiny invisible programmers living inside your game who control.
This AI thing has just gotten ridiculous, and the fact that we're calling it AI too, it's mostly just machine learning. It's not its own like sentient artificial intelligence, as the way they would say it in the Mass Effect context of it. They'd call it virtual intelligence and not artificial intelligence. But that's a whole other thing that we could get into.
I mean, that's what happened with NFTs and the metaverse. The words became the buzz and not the actual technology.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that fact.
Dude, metaverse look like, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, like, it is kind of an MMO called Second Life.
Second
Life looks so much better than Metaverse.
And like, Second Life has been around since what, like the early 2000s or 90s?
Early 2000s. Yeah.
Wasn't it on an episode of The Office?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
was
think so.
Jim and
Yeah.
Jim and what's his name? Dwight. They,
But yeah,
Yeah.
I remember trying to get on to Second Life as a kid because I was like,
yeah,
oh, this sounds so cool. Let me check it out. My
yeah,
computer can run it, but I mean, it's this whole idea has been around since forever,
yeah.
and that's not. But like metaverse at its core is not what like they started trying to create later on.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. And I think that also leaves us with all the time we had for the podcast as well. Before we conclude, actually, maybe we could take a couple of quick minutes to, well, might be more than a couple of quick minutes. We'll see how long it goes. Did you guys happen to catch anything from either the Sony or the Microsoft reveals that they did over these past couple of weeks?
Oh yeah. I definitely, let's see. Borderlands 4 looks pretty
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more gameplay from that. Yeah.
Borderlands 3, one of the big complaints was gameplay was great. The story, a lot of
Mhm.
people did not like it. Given the especially the villains, the villains are basically TikTok influencers.
Or Twitch streamers.
Yeah. Um, but and especially with some of the events of the previous Borderlands game, like this war involving alien races and stuff,
Mhm.
4 looks like it's leading up to that. So that looks pretty good. And I was kind of hoping for Bloodborne Remaster, Bloodborne Kart, Bloodborne Smash, and Bloodborne Walking Simulator.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that didn't
None of that
happen.
happened.
But
Yeah.
I'm still huffing my hopium.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
but that's the
There,
immediate that
there
comes
was
to
the one that
mind.
I shared.
Yeah. Go
The
ahead.
Returnal
Oh,
the
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Rahul,
Ra-
what's his name?
Rahul Kohli.
Kohli,
Rahul
yeah,
Kohli.
it's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saros,
Yeah.
Saros. Yeah,
right? So it's going to be kind of the Returnal, not sequel, but like
Indian
It's the
mythology.
follow
next
up.
game of that
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like a
like the follow up to Returnal.
spiritual successor.
Exactly,
Right.
spiritual successor to Returnal. Which
That did
Returnal,
look pretty
I mean,
good.
I never played it, but like I saw gameplay and it was
Oh yeah.
incredible.
Returnal is fun. A lot of fun.
So I'm excited for
Mhm.
Saros, especially
Mhm.
brown people
Oh,
representing.
you just
Exactly.
reminded me. Digimon Story. After so many years,
Mhm.
we're finally getting a new Digimon Story game. The two that exist, I highly recommend if you like JRPGs and if you like Digimon. The two
Okay.
are Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory. We're
Mhm.
finally getting a new one, and it
Hmm,
looks pretty good.
cool.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, Sorrows definitely looked the most interesting to me. Um, I really, the first trailer that they showed was what really caught my eye, Shinobi Art of Vengeance.
Mm.
I've heard the Shinobi games are notoriously difficult. Even the last one that came out on PS2 was notoriously difficult too. But just the art style alone, just it was gorgeous. The way the game looked, and Onimusha, they showed a remaster of Onimusha 2 that came out back in the day on PS2, and the newer Onimusha Way of the Sword game, which interestingly they modeled the main character after an actor that Akira Kurosawa used a lot in a lot of his movies. I can't recall the name of the actor, but yeah, it looks very interesting. Yeah. So hey, we actually got through that pretty quickly. I think that's
Yeah,
the quickest part of our segment that we were to cook a segment in our podcast that we were able to get through. All right, we've already kept our viewers and listeners here for a little bit over an hour. So let's just take a couple of minutes to say thank you guys, Jazakallah khairan, to all of our viewers and listeners for tuning in and for supporting the podcast because it really, really does mean a lot to us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, follow, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Wherever you're listening to us, you should be able to find us anywhere. And if you're listening to us somewhere and you'd rather listen to us somewhere else where you're not able to find us, please do let us know and we'll try to address that as soon as possible.
Mhm.
We're also on some social medias now. I can't remember the handles off the top of my head and I did not write them in my notes. So definitely look for those in the show notes and in the description below. Yeah, come hang out there, share your thoughts, and let us know what topics you'd like us to cover next. And as mentioned at the top of the episode, we're probably going to be having this as our last episode before we get into our Ramadan break. So if we don't see you before then, Ramadan Mubarak and advanced Ramadan Mubarak and advanced Eid Mubarak as well, because We'll probably be starting it back up sometime after Eid.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and happy gaming. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.